Schock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for your patience and cooperation with our questions. We just start at the 30,000-foot level. Mr. Cohen, your responsibility is to carry out and implement the Affordable Care Act. And obviously, this is a law that was hotly debated, passed the Senate, passed the House, signed into law by the President, is the law of the land. Your responsibility as a federal employee is to carry out and implement that law. The President has decided, the administration, I guess I say, the President vocalized his unilateral decision to withhold implementation of a portion of that law, specifically the employer mandate. I'm just wondering, from your perspective as that federal employee, did you seek any legal counsel or legal opinion on whether or not you could go ahead and not implement a portion of the law passed by Congress and instead move forward on a dictate from the President inconsistent with U.S. law?
I haven't, but I would point out that portion of the law is not one of the ones that I am tasked with implementing. That portion of the law is the Treasury Department and the IRS's, not mine.
And I'll answer
Mr.
that.
Werfel.
There was I wasn't in these meetings, but there was a team of lawyers, as I understand it, who evaluated the legal issues surrounding this decision on the employer provisions. So I think there was significant legal review of the issue.
Can you get to us the names specifically of who gave that legal opinion, whether it was Treasury Department attorneys or whether it was legal staff at the White House? Who specifically weighed in on the legal interpretation to determine the executive branch could unilaterally make a decision of not upholding a U.S. law passed by Congress and signed into law by the President?
I will consult with Treasury on the best way to respond to the question.
Thank you. I think that'd be helpful, because I think it's confusing to Americans to watch us debate laws, watch them be enacted, and then see, maybe for legitimate reasons, the President say, look, this isn't ready for implementation, and rather than go back to Congress and say, look, we need permission to not do X, Y, or Z, the executive branch simply says, we're just not going to do it. I think it speaks not only to the credibility of this law, but I think it also undermines the credibility as we work on other important challenges and issues facing our country, whether it be immigration, our national debt, and the like. That trust is so important between the executive and the judicial branch, or executive and legislative branch, as well as with the American people. Mr. Werfel, you mentioned in your comments earlier that in reference to the IRS and Treasury Union employees who wish to opt out of the exchanges, that you thought it was appropriate that those employees be able to stay with their current policy because they're happy with them, happy with their policy. I'm wondering whether or not, given the fact that there have been several thousand exemptions given out to different businesses and labor groups not to have to comply with the law, whether or not the Treasury Union employees would be able to apply for a similar exemption.
I think, if I understand the issue correctly, the federal employees and the IRS employees would not need to do that. The NTEU statement was in response to a proposed piece of legislation that would have required federal employees to move into the exchange framework. And so they were saying, we prefer not for that legislation to not pass because, again, we already have affordable health care coverage and we're happy with our current program. So there's no need for a waiver for the IRS employees as far as I understand the law today.
So how would they be exempted? Or how would
the reality is that you only go to the exchange, it's an option. You go to the exchange, you have to have health insurance, right, under the law. But as a federal employee, you have health insurance. So you're covered. You wouldn't need to go to the exchange unless you were unhappy.
But the law requires them to go to the exchange. That's the problem.
No, it does not.
No. So then why are they?
Because the proposed bill that was being considered and introduced would have this requirement in place. It would have basically taken away the normal federal employee health benefit plan and required them to move to a different health benefit plan, which would have been through the exchanges. And they were basically saying, I don't want that law to be passed because I'm happy.
So they don't want to have happen to them what's happening to Congress.
Well, but because they were saying, because that would, no, that would, well, yes.
Yes,
that's right.
okay, yeah, all right.
That's
That
correct.
just makes it much clearer.
That's correct,
Thank
yes.
you. Finally, I just want to hit on the self-attesting. It sounds as though you've got a plan in place, Mr. Cohen, to speed up the process of being able to verify income. I just want to very quickly throw out a few figures. In Illinois, they did the self-attesting and verification later just on the Medicaid portion, and they found just in their initial investigation 20,000 Medicaid cases, 13,000 of them should not have gone on to Medicaid. They did not meet the income verification. So these people self-attested, yes, I qualify. 2/3 of them, after the agency followed up, actually were thrown off. So I think that's a problem if we're going to say yes now and verify later. And I would suggest that maybe there ought to be a way that we verify their income first before they start getting a benefit. I yield back.
All right. Time is